Good morning, and welcome to Vigilant Broadcasting. The station opportunity presents Underneath the Hat with your host, author Sherri Simmons, as she discusses topics to help us all take care of ourselves underneath the hat.
Good morning, and welcome to Underneath the Hat, an affiliate of Vigilant Broadcasting and the Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. My name is Sherri Simmons, and I am your host today, and our topic will be mental health. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can go right now to the page, Talk Radio TV Network, LLP, and hear us as we're streaming live. Also, if you want to call in and discuss, you have a question for myself or our guest, you can call me at 319-527-2634. Any questions, comments, you want to share your story, we would love to hear from you. So, mental health. I decided to look this up because so often we have a weird idea of what it is. And so the dictionary says that it's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It deals with those three things. It also affects how we think, feel, and act. And so we're going to dive deeper in that today to help us to get a better understanding of it. And so I have a guest that's on today, and I want to introduce her to you and allow for her to come on and continue sharing her story. Her name is LaShanika Franklin, known to many as Nikki. She first and foremost is a child of God. She is a mother of 4 daughters, 1 son-in-law, and 1 grandson. She is a kingdom entrepreneur and a minister of the gospel. She mentors and is a life coach to teen mothers and women who have faced traumatic events such as rape, molestation, and abuse through her nonprofit organization, Women of Now, Faith Incorporated. She is the founder of LaShanika Elegance Ministries and the author of God Makes Beautiful Things, which is already published and unveiled to be published in May of 2019. God has called her to be a vessel for deliverance and to teach others to walk in purpose and embrace the kingdom of God. So I would like to welcome our guest today, Ms. LaShanika Franklin.
Good morning. Praise God. Thank you, Sherri, for having me on the show. I know that something will be said today that is going to inspire and encourage someone else who has faced any type of mental health issues. But again, thank you, Sherri, for this opportunity to share my story.
No problem. Thank you for agreeing to do it and being open and transparent about it so, like you said, we can, in fact, help somebody who may feel like they're suffering by themselves. So why don't you share with the listeners today your story of dealing with mental health?
I absolutely will. So growing up, I was raised by my grandmother because my biological father wasn't around, and my mother, she enlisted in the military when I was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. So it all started there, being rejected, not understanding who I am. I would always just seek identity with my uncles. I was the only child there without their mother and father besides my other cousins. So I would try to embrace their mother and father and call them mom and dad. And I was still even rejected in those areas because, they had to tend to their own family and not tend to me. I wasn't their child. And at that time, I could not understand, even though I called them mom and dad, why they wouldn't treat me that way. And then I faced a lot of issues with molestation. I was molested as a child more times than I could even remember. That also took a toll on me and who I was, and some of the things that I even faced in my adult years. So at the age of 22, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And battling those spiritual issues, I didn't understand. Only thing I actually thought I was fine. I was okay. Although the doctor diagnosed me with these things, I literally thought that I was fine. But I did notice that if I took the medication that they prescribed me, it either made me isolated or sleepy. So it did not, it kind of masked some of the emotions, the feelings that I felt, but the scars and the wounds were still there. So as I faced depression, and let me say this, I was also in a marriage that this wasn't of God. I didn't know to ask God even about marriage until later on in life. So being in this marriage also added to my depression. Steady being rejected, steady being abandoned, and steady being broken, and steady being hurt, and steady being hurt. So at this point in my life, it's more so like no one is around, no one is available, but I don't know how to open my heart and get better. I don't know how to open my heart and get better. So the only issue now is, what do? I have kids. I have children I have to look after. It's just me. No other help. I ended up divorced 5 years ago. Grace of God. I had to seek God. I had to find out what's going on, God. What's the issue here? That's when I really, really ran to God, and I really, really began to open myself up to God. And I couldn't understand, like, okay, God, this is marriage, right? But are you in the midst of divorce? Like, is this something I should be doing? So I also battled with that and the hurt and the shame and the pain and not understanding, okay, God, am I going to be embarrassed after this divorce? Am I going to hear, I told you so? What am I going to hear? So all those things rolled over in my mind and in my heart. So with that being said, I had to seek God. And that's when my breakthrough really came. When I really, really, really began to seek God. I didn't know that the things that I faced, even in my past, that affected me and my children. It affected us so bad, and affected my household, affected my finances. It even affected me at work. I was a total wreck, even at work, and just some brokenness. It was almost just the worst thing I had ever endured in my life. And just the breaking of it caused me to put a hindrance on my children, my older kids, because I would go into the room and I would just stay by myself. And I would isolate myself and say, you know what, this is just what it is. This is life. And my kids, I had an older daughter, and she's always been a huge help. But I left a lot of responsibility with her, and depression just seemed to get worse and worse and worse and worse. It seemed to get worse and worse. But the grace of God had to take hold of me and turn things around for me. And
now, it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought up depression and anxiety, because so often when we hear of mental anything, we think of the very severe cases of schizophrenia and bipolar. So why do you think that now it has become such a hot topic, and where more people are starting to pay attention to it? And we're realizing that a lot of us actually suffer from some of the issues under mental health umbrella that we didn't even know were under there.
I think now it's coming out more because you have so much media and so much wisdom about what is going on. So now people can understand this is why I feel this way. This is what's going on with me. So now we're bringing more insight to what's going on to someone mentally and emotionally when they're dealing with these issues, when they're dealing with these problems. At first, everything was so hush. Now, you know, I know even for me, it was more so embarrassing. You don't want anybody to know that you're dealing with mental health issues. You don't want no one to know that you're depressed, you have illness or bipolar or schizophrenic. You don't want anyone to know any of that. So you're quiet about it. Even if you're diagnosed with it, and then you think about our community. What do we say about our community? No one in our community, meaning our race, our color, Black, do not want to go to the doctor to be diagnosed. And then if you diagnose them, the only thing they're going to say is, "Oh, I'm not crazy." They won't take they won't get the emotional help. They won't get the physical help to get help to become well and to get better. So that's been our issue. That's been our strife. That's been the burden that's been on everybody.
Right. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this whole movement of taking care of yourself underneath the hat, because I realized going through my divorce and realizing, like, oh, my God, I am depressed. I'm sitting in a room by myself. I'm functioning. I'm going to work. People didn't even know that I was going through a divorce, had been separated, and I work with these people every day. And no one knew until I actually opened up and told them. And people were floored. They were flabbergasted. Like, how are you walking around still functioning, doing all this, and going through what you go through? But we are taught as a culture to put on a happy face. Don't tell everybody your business. Nobody has to know everything. Just leave it alone. God will take care of it. Yeah, we're still hurting inside, wearing all these masks and still trying to juggle all these things underneath these different hats that we wear, being a parent and a sibling and a child and a worker, entrepreneur, a father, not knowing that the same people we see every day are struggling with things that we could never imagine. So I wanted to make sure that I use this platform that God was giving me to open it up to people, to let them know that you're not by yourself. There are other people going through the same things. And I had heard of the word depression, but I had never experienced it until I was going through my divorce, of not wanting to be bothered, no TV on, sitting in the dark, crying for hours until I fell asleep. And people don't realize that those are symptoms of depression and that is considered a part of your mental health.
Right.
So I've decided to look up some of the myths that are out there about mental health to give people clarity on certain things, so that they can have a better understanding of hearing my story and yours as well. So I got these from the mentalhealth.gov website. So one of the myths that I read about is that mental health doesn't affect me. So what can you say to someone who feels that mental health doesn't affect them or may never affect them?
What I can say to someone who feels that mental health does not affect them is to take a step back. Sometimes I was one that I didn't see that it affected me and everything that was connected to me. You need to take a step back and begin to look and begin to see yourself. Sometimes it just takes you to get quiet with yourself and find out, okay, the worst thing for us to happen is to allow a bad, horrible situation for you to encounter, for you to realize, okay, I need some help. I need some help. And we don't want to get to that point where you get to a breaking point and you're like, you know what, there's nothing in my life that can use me. And you don't want to get there, because a lot of times we'll push people away. We'll push people so far away when we're broken, so we don't have anybody. You have people around you right now telling you that you need help with. You have people, because people they may not know how to tell you. They may not know how to say it. It may come out as just being mean, nasty, and vindictive. the family really to them and pay attention to what's being said, pay attention to what's being done, and take heed to the words that are being said to us, said about us. Things that are being, stupid people are saying around us.
Yeah. Because one thing I know is I was telling my group of girls in our mentoring program that part of our mantra that we say every day is to love yourself first. And I think instilling that in young girls now will create women who don't feel that they have to give their all to everyone else and not fill their cup. Because so often a lot of us deal with things and go through some mental health issues because we're so busy taking care of everybody else, and we end up on empty. And then there's nobody around to help us because we've helped everybody else, so now they're able to go, and now we're just sitting like a stalled car. So we've given all our gas to everybody else, and now there's nobody to help fill us up. And I think that we need to have people around us, like you said, that are going to tell you the truth. I understand people don't want to be in other people's business, but I can't see you putting your hand in fire and I've been burned and I'm not saying nothing.
That's right.
And you have people around you, you can tell when something's wrong with you. If no one can tell something's wrong with you, it should be yourself. I can look in the mirror and say, I don't feel like I normally do.
Right.
Or I don't even look like I normally do.
That's right.
So we need to be able to see within ourselves that something is wrong and figure out how we can go about fixing it so that we can get back to being our better self. And like you said, listening to those people around us who are telling you something's not right. If the same person, if multiple people are telling you the same thing, then there has to be some truth to it somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and that was my issue. I didn't want to hear what anybody had to say about Nikki. But that's what everybody called me. I didn't want to hear what anybody had to say about me. I felt like it was just that rejection. You just don't like me. Like I said before, when I started the interview, I was, I dealt with a strong spirit of rejection.
Yeah.
I couldn't take constructive criticism, even if you came to me nicely and made me aware of how I was feeling, what I was feeling. I still felt like this person just got something against me. That was my word to me, to myself. And, again, like you said, if you have so many people telling you the same thing over and over and over again, you have to begin to just look at that. A lot of times they say sometimes you can't. If you're hearing the same thing, it's not them, it's you.
Yeah.
So we have to realize that we're not perfect beings.
Right.
We're not set here to be perfect. And I'll tell you like this. I looked at it. I saw a Bible verse that still sticks with me to this day. God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. The things that everybody said about me, God began to take that scripture and begin to teach me that these words are for you, what you feel about yourself, because what has been implanted in you by others' words, or even by your own words, or even by the situation that you're going through. God can change you and turn you into something that will glorify Him.
Yeah. Absolutely, because sometimes people see things in you that you don't even see in yourself.
Yes.
Like, it's amazing. I was in high school, and I went to Whitney Young, and my speech teacher, Mrs. Sharp, told me, she said, you really should go into broadcasting. Like, you have a voice for broadcasting. I'm like, at that time, I wanted to be Matlock. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. My great-grandmother used to make me watch Matlock with her all the time. I was studying my law words. I was ready to argue anybody down. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And then here she comes talking about you should go into broadcasting. at 15, 16 years old. And now here I am 20 years later on the radio and doing web series. Like, she saw something that I didn't even see. And so we never know what people are seeing in us that we don't see. A lot of us think that we're the only ones that are anointed in our circle, so nobody can talk to God but us. So if God said it, he'll tell me. And so we end up missing up on opportunities and blessings because we don't recognize that God is sending people to us and we're not paying attention to it.
That is so true.
Yeah. And a lot of times we end up going through things, trials and tests that we don't even have to go through because God is trying to give you a way out and you're not paying attention to it.
That's right.
It was a story my pastor had told us a couple of months ago about how it was a flood and the man wouldn't leave his house. So the man on the boat came when the water was low. The man on the boat came. He was like, "Nah, I'm gonna wait out." The water kept rising, so he made it to his window. And somebody came with the fire truck came with the ladder. Nah, I'm gonna wait it out. Water kept rising. He ended up on the roof. Here comes the helicopter with the ladder. Nah, I'm gonna wait. So the man died. Made it to heaven. Asked God, "Why didn't you send somebody to help me?" He said, "I sent the man in a boat. I sent the fire truck. I sent the helicopter. And you wouldn't take the help that I was sending you."
Right.
So often we put ourselves in situations because we're not willing to listen to or take heed, like you said, to the people around us that are telling us something's not right. You look different. You don't even act the same way.
Right.
And we get in our feelings and emotions and aren't able to take what it is that they tell us, which can ultimately be our breakthrough and prevent us from having to hurt and suffer even longer than we end up doing.
Yes. 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 And, you know, I love that story. I've heard that story as well myself. And it's so true. It's so true. And you know, a lot of that comes from how we were raised. We fear people. We fear help from people. We fear being there for others because we feel like, if we're there for someone, they should be there for us too.
Yeah.
Or we also feel like, you know what? Nobody needs to know my business. All they're going to do is talk about me behind my back.
Yep.
So when it's all said and done, God is saying, like you say, God is sending us open avenues, people, and now it's no excuse. You have social media. You have people out here that are willing to help. Now that it's, being commercialized and everything is being set out in the open. One thing that I know, the enemy thrives in darkness.
Yes.
He thrives in darkness. So when that is Satan having his hold on our minds and on our thoughts. Don't say anything to anybody. Because I know I was raised in a home where, what was the motto? What
happens in this house
stays in
this house. Yep.
So now we have this mentality. Nobody can know anything about. Sorry, guys. No one can know anything about what's going on in my life, what I am going through, the fight that I'm having mentally, physically, financially.
Yep. Absolutely. And then that actually goes as a good segue into the next myth, that children don't experience this, that children don't have mental health issues too. Now, being an educator and working with kids, I have seen the effects of mental health on children. Right. They are just as depressed, have just as much anxiety as we do. And they have to deal with the social media of people who don't know them casting judgment on them. So now they got to deal with the same people we dealt with of talking about us, worrying about if Aunt Sue is going to tell Auntie Cassie my business over the phone or text it to her. Now you got to worry about perfect strangers telling you what you shouldn't do and how you look, and they don't even know you.
Absolutely.
So we do have to realize that kids go through it as well. Go ahead.
Yes. I was gonna say the same thing, like with kids, and do you know that breaks trust. I had to learn, and I'm still learning how not to run to maybe a family member about something that my kid did, something that my child did. It was, because when it happens to us or our kids, we didn't understand it. We just knew that we didn't like it. When mama or daddy ran and told such and such that this happened at school or this happened at home, or let me tell you what this did today.
Yeah. Yep.
And you hear this from your parent. So now all it does is cast judgment and it breaks trust.
So
we have to get to a point where, not that we're hiding it, but how we cast it out as well. Because we cast it out as negative, so the child, this creates a stronghold within the child's mind. If my mom and my parents talked about me this way, what would you say about me?
Right.
If I told you. So we don't have anybody to lean on because we're skeptical of everybody. It starts everything sister at home. That's our roots.
Yeah.
And that's what
I had taken it a different way. I was thinking of now that was their source of outlet.
Okay.
Of being able to talk to somebody else about what was going on. So even though it may have come off as them being of gossiping and telling the business, I think because of the way that our families and our parents grew up and great-grandparents and grandparents, that was the only outlet was to tell each other. Tell a close family member that you knew and see what advice they may have had. So those were their therapy sessions, now that I think about it, of them being able to share what was going on in their house and in the midst of sharing, getting advice on how to go about doing it. Even though to us, we like, man, you on the phone with Auntie again? I said, I ain't even got in the house yet. You done told her already? But now being grown and understanding it and having a different perception of it, I can see that could have been a way of therapy for our past generations to be able to share their stories and get advice on how to raise children because they didn't have anyone else that they could go to.
Absolutely. That is absolutely it. Because it was therapy for me as well, and it was advice. What do I do now? What should I do in this type of situation? How do I handle this? From a parent's perspective, we don't have the answers, we don't have the reasoning, and we go to, and we allow and it's okay to go to a family member. Let me say that it's okay to go to a family member. Don't do it in front of the kids. Don't do it in front of the children, as we're so prone to doing, because that is still therapy. Because we're here for one another. As the body of Christ, we should be here for one another.
Exactly. Yep.
And if I can come to you. If I could come to you and I thought you were going to say something. If I could come to you and get a word of advice from you, then I know that all is well, and I know, maybe I can give you a word that I've been through this, and I can teach you how to get over it. I can teach you how to get through it. I can teach you how to get past it.
And that a lot of times when you feel like you have someone that you can go to, cuts down on you sitting in the room by yourself, wondering, what's going on? Why am I feeling like this? Sometimes all it takes is just to have one person that is listening, even if it's a joke with it or a gossip story that comes after. The fact that you were able to get something out and not hold it in allows for you to be able to go and move forward in your life and handle some things that you didn't think that you would be able to handle. So we're going to take a break right here, and when we come back, we'll continue debunking some of these myths around mental health with our guest, LaShanika Franklin. This is Underneath the Hat, and we'll be back.
Welcome back to Underneath the Hat with your host, author Sherri Simmons.
Hello, welcome back to Underneath the Hat. I'm your host, Sherri Simmons. I've started a watch party on my page, Sherri Simmons, so if you want to go and tune in, I've seen some people pop in and out already, and we're discussing the topic of mental health. If you want to call in and discuss with myself and our guests, you can call at 319-527-2634. You can also check us out on the Facebook page, Talk Radio TV Network, LLP. And my guest today has been LaShanika Franklin, and we have been having a great conversation about mental health. We've been debunking some of the myths that we have heard over the years about it. So let me give you a definition again of what mental health actually deals with. It deals with emotional, psychological, and your social well-being. It also affects how we think, feel, and act. So, LaShanika, let's dive right back into some of these myths. So another one that I saw on the website, mentalhealth.gov, was that people with mental health issues are violent and unpredictable. So what did you say about that myth?
I would say that it's a myth. Only reason why I say that is because everyone who have dealing with someone mental, that does not make them a violent person. It can withdraw some. Not saying anybody can get violent. We never know what we'll do in the heat of any moment. Right or wrong. Sometimes I may get a little heated a little quicker than you. My tolerance level may be different from you. But you have individuals out here now that do not suffer. I can't even say that I know someone that has not. If you've been in this life and you've dealt with something, you have something internally that needs to be dealt with. So I can't say that it's anyone that does not have an issue or something that they need to have dealt with. Because if that's the case, then you're perfect.
Exactly.
So if we are all dealing with something, we need to take that into consideration. Your severity of it may differ. You may have, your control mechanisms may have to be different from mine because of how we suffer or how we intake what we've been through and how we internalize it and how we actually materialize it toward others. So, no, it's not that, where, people who have dealt with mental issues are violent or more verbal or just you can't deal with them. That's not what it is. That's not the truth. We all have a side. Everyone has a side that we don't want to see.
Yeah, because I talk about mine in my book. In my book, Underneath the Hat, I had a chapter called Snap, Crackle, Pop. Now, I can say I'm a very subdued person. I used to call myself a volcano. I was one of those people where I would let stuff simmer and it would build up and then I would explode. But now I'm more of a teapot where it don't take as much to get me, but I had to find my voice. I think I was harvesting so much because I was afraid of what people would say. And I was in a relationship, a marriage where I couldn't be myself. I had to dim my light in order for his to shine. So a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do, I couldn't do because I was afraid of what he might say, of making him uncomfortable. And so I isolated myself in a lot of ways because I was more concerned about him. And so now that I know who Sherri is, I'm not going to sit back and tolerate a lot of the stuff that I tolerated. And I will admit, when finding out about the infidelity of my ex-husband and the people that were involved in the situation, there were some moments that could have warranted me going to jail. I totally understand now why they have these shows called Snapped and Fatal Attraction, on TV because it is real. You have these out-of-body experiences where you just going through all that you have gone through, and then for all this stuff to keep being added on and on and on. And at the time, I didn't have an outlet, so I was holding all of this in, and which allowed for me to think things and do some things that I should not have done. And so I can understand where the myth comes from, but I think that certain people, if that's not in their character, they can be seen as violent and unpredictable if they don't get the help that they need in order to let it out in a different way.
Absolutely. That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. And we need to get the help. But I think the biggest thing with that is breaking that shell to get to someone's mental to let them know that I actually do need some help. And again, we don't want to get to that point where all else fails, because you have people out here that are willing to help, but we can push help away. You can people like we know, pressure bust pipes with anybody, and we know a person can only take so much. Even when you're in failed marriages, a lot of times marriages fail because we don't know how to deal with issues. We are not speaking each other's love language. We don't even know our own love language in order to be able to express who we are while we're even together. So knowing who we are is a very important part, even of our mental stability. If we have no idea, no understanding of who we are, this is what causes mental breakdowns. You lose your job, lose your kid, lose your spouse. You have built your identity on that person or on that job or whatever the case may be, and you lose it. Now you feel like everything is gone, hope is gone, your identity is now flawed, you have no reason for life. And that also, like you say, when you lose your life even for your husband. So now, what do we say when you're in a relationship and everything goes, I gave everything to you. I did everything for you. I made sure I was there for you. I was a faithful wife. I was a faithful husband. I was this to you. I was that to you. We've given ourselves and idolized our lives, our situations, our purpose, people and things. And this is what causes, stronger mental breakdowns, because we don't know who we are.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought up being able to turn to someone, because the next myth is there's no help for people, that therapy is a waste of time. I can say if it wasn't for Jesus and my therapist, I would not be sitting here right now. So now, a lot of people, especially church people, they're like, nah, just pray about it. Okay, but faith without works is dead. God made therapists for a reason. He's not saying to idolize them and take everything that they say and fall on your knees in front of them and bow to them and, your word is all I'm going to listen to. But you need someone that you can talk to that can give you strategies that you can use. Because sometimes we be so wrapped up in our mind that I can admit I idolized my ex-husband. And God was like, no, I got too much for you to do. So I'm going to just have to pull you right on up out of here. And I know that if I don't do it, you're not going to leave.
My God.
But it took me getting to the point where my relationship with God was strong enough for me to hear him say that. And I was not hearing anybody but my ex-husband. So God had to literally remove me from that situation. Because the separation started out as one thing, me thinking something else. And then God was like, okay, now here's what's really going on. And he just started revealing stuff to prevent me from going back. And I never did. I mean, I tried. I was like, the Bible says forgive. And he was, okay, you really playing. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit longer than I thought. So I call them TKOs in the book. He just kept knocking me out, kept knocking me down with stuff until finally it was like, okay, I'm done, that's it. But I can say out of the pain, I found my purpose. And I found a better relationship with God because I realized that he's been with me the whole time, even when I wasn't fully devoted to him. He was there the whole time.
The whole time.
Yes. And so because of him putting my therapist in my life and me being able to talk to her and have these conversations and be able to put things out there, a lot of the things that I've learned from her, I'm able to help other people now.
Right.
So how would you say, how has religion, your relationship with God, or even therapy helped you in dealing with the mental health?
Yes. Praise God for Jesus. As I said before, I went through the therapy and the the counseling sessions and, things of that, anything that I could lay my hands to overcome the molestation I've been through, the abuse I faced. And what it did, I can't say that it was the best thing, but it did it covered up some of the things that allowed me to bring out some of the dark things that were in my past. But my healing came through Jesus.
Yeah.
That is where I learned my identity. I'm a child of God. Certain things, like you say, we've idolized. I've idolized relationships. I idolized my job. I idolized so many things, and God took it away. I idolized my purpose. God took it away.
Yep.
So, we take for granted the things that God take away from us, and we say, God, where are you? How do you allow this to happen? But I had to learn that this is working for my good. Had it not been so, I would not be healed. Like, I can look at my past now and not, be bitter about it and not feel like, okay, I went through that, it doesn't mean anything. No, what I went through means a lot. And the craziest thing that I'm going to say is I'm grateful that I was able to go through it and overcome. And now I get to help others overcome because of Jesus, because sitting at his feet, like you said before, knowing his voice, and we only know his voice through intimacy, sitting with him, being in his presence. So, okay, you may have to take medication for a little while. That is fine. Whatever regimen they give, but don't negate Father God. Have your time with him. Because that's where your real healing is going to come, because medication only covers the symptoms. It doesn't deal with the root causes. My depression and anxiety, it came from a root cause. There's a root cause to everything, and we must get to the root. We must get to the root of all things and knowing, okay, I'm an overcomer. See, because life will have you out here as if you're defeated. You can go through a storm. Jesus, he was in the boat, and there was a storm. He rested. Being in the presence of God allows you to rest in the middle of every storm, because when you know Christ, when you know God, when you're in the midst of a storm, you'll be able to handle what's going on better, because you know, okay, I'm going through a storm. I know what this means. I got to get in the face of God. If I don't get in the face of God, I'm going to let the presence of this storm consume me. I'm going to allow the presence of this storm to take me off of my course, and I'm not going to receive the blessing that God has on the other end of this storm. There's a miracle on the other end of our storm. My purpose was on the other end of my storm, and I couldn't see it at first. But as it seemed like I had to be so broken to the place where all I could call on was God. All I could have was God. And when I got to that place, that's where my door was open. That's where my, divine connections began to come in. And he began to manifest himself and say, this is your purpose. This is what I called you for. And I allowed you to go through it because I see that you're strong enough to go through it. To hear God say that, it doesn't make sense. Like, God, why? But he's like, you are strong enough to go through it because you're going to have to help someone else. Again, this gives you purpose. It's not your identity. My identity is I'm a child of God, and I know that I'll never be defeated by any storm, by any issue. If I'm going through it, it's for a reason. It's for a purpose. On the other side, I got to keep speaking this to myself over and over on a daily basis. The sure enough, as we're on this earth, we're going to face a trial. We're going to face the tribulation. We're going to face the issue. We're going to face the situation, whether it's kids, finances, jobs, relationships, whatever it is, you're going to face a storm. And we need to know that we are overcomers. We don't have to stay in it, but we'll go through it. We'll go through it. And use it for your purpose. There's purpose in our pain.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that you knew that God had chosen you and that He knew it because you were able to handle what He had given you. The song says He doesn't give us more than we can bear. And then Ty Tribbett says if He's done it before, He'll do it again. You have some people who go through things. Can I call you Nikki?
Yes.
Because I feel like I know you're not. Nikki, it bothers my spirit when I see people go through the same thing over and over and over again. Like, did you not learn the lesson the first time? And then they always say, well, God put me through this test. Okay, as a teacher, I know that the purpose of a test is for me to see what it is that you remember or learn from what I taught you. So if I got to keep giving you the test again, that means you weren't paying attention when I was teaching the lesson.
That's right.
So if God gives us tests, it's to see if we learned the things He needed us to learn from the issues that we went through. And if you keep failing the test and He has to keep giving you a makeup test, that means that you weren't paying attention to what He was telling you.
That's right.
Like, I have heard people say this from the pulpit, and it blows my mind. Like, why are we still going through the same thing 14 years later? Why is this okay? This doesn't show that God trusts you enough to do it. That means you're not paying attention.
That's exactly what that means.
And I'll be honest. I think I've said this on the show before. I used to be afraid because I'm only 36. And I've gone through so much in 36 years. I was like, oh, my God, I think I'm leaving this earth early. Like, He allowed me to experience all this stuff because it's happening so fast. And God told me, He's like, it's because you listen.
My God.
You reaping all these benefits because you listen.
Oh, my God.
Like, I don't understand. And I think a lot of people who are going through mental health, you need an outlet. You need to know that you are valuable. And I say this all the time, that a burglar does not rob an empty bank. So it's something in you that the devil sees that he is on you like crazy, because he knows that if he lets off on you, and you realize how valuable you are, then you're going to take over the world, and he can't have it.
Yeah.
So he pushes on you with all this anxiety and this depression and the sleeping when everybody else is up, not wanting to be bothered, not taking calls, crying yourself to sleep, because he knows if I can keep you in the darkness, like you said earlier, then you're not going to realize how much of a light you are.
That's right.
And we got a lot of lights that's in darkness now because they don't realize their value and their worth.
That's right.
So whoever is out there listening, whoever may hear this, I need you to know that if you are going through something right now, that's because you are valuable. And the devil is trying to keep you from finding out what your true purpose is, because he's afraid of how dangerous you are going to be once you figure it out. So take these different pains and trials and tests that you're going through and learn from them the first time, so that you can continue to grow and flourish in order to be the life that you're destined to be. Because you have two examples right here speaking to you that learned our purpose from our pain. And it's possible. It is possible. So I can say I have really enjoyed this conversation.
I have too.
I really have enjoyed this conversation. And before we end, because I want to be able to make sure that you get a chance to share the events that you have going on, I have one more question.
Yes.
What advice would you give your younger self about dealing with mental health?
The advice I would give my younger self is pay attention to what's being said, criticism and corrective criticism. If you're hearing the same things over and over again, and also if you are going over like you said, the testing, and you're faced with the same thing over and over, and it feels like a cycle, pay attention to what needs to be broken. If you are experiencing, which I don't sponsor you my younger self today, and I would sponsor another teenager to go out here and pursue a mate or anything of that nature. But if you are dealing with the same relationships over and over, I'm not saying the same person, but the same issues within each relationship, find out what cycles those are, especially for women. Because one thing about women, this is the one thing that we go through, that many of us may go through, that harbors our progress and who we are and our purpose. Those are the things that I would tell my younger self. Pay attention to you.
And I would offer the advice to my younger self of, you are valuable, because I didn't realize how valuable I was.
Yes.
And because of that, I allowed myself to be manipulated and controlled by someone who tried to dim my light. And because of that, I wasn't able to form a stronger relationship with God. I think I would be much further than I am now if I had realized the value that I had. Because a lot of the dreams and things and ideas that I had as a kid are coming true now.
Right.
But they were stifled in that relationship. So I would definitely say to realize that I'm valuable in that, and to focus on my self-worth.
Yeah.
So I wish we could continue on with this, because I've learned so much just in these 54 minutes. And I want to thank you so much for coming and being a part of the show and sharing your testimony and your thoughts around helping those who may be suffering in silence around the issue of mental health. But before you go, we have your information that's been popping up throughout the show. But if you want to tell everybody your social media handles, where they can find you, and any things you have coming up.
All right, absolutely. Again, thank you, Sherri, for having me on the show. And everyone who is out listening, thank you guys for tuning in. My name is LaShanika Franklin. Everyone call me Nikki. If you can find me on Facebook at LaShanika God's Child Franklin. You can find me on Instagram at LaShanika Elegance Ministries as well. And right now I don't have any events coming. I'm in position for transition. I am now transitioning my ministry. I will still be operating here in Illinois, but I'm also operating now in Florida. So this is a big transition for me. And you guys keep me in your prayers. We will have upcoming events. I am still mentoring and life coaching. I also mentor and life coach women who've been raped, molested, and abused. I also life coach as well. I life coach, and I help people build their business brand, help them create their own website, because I don't create them because it is hard and it's very expensive if you are a new entrepreneur to have someone to maintain your website. So I kind of teach you how to maintain your own website until you can get to the position where you can have someone else to maintain your website. I also help you create your business plan. So if these are anything that you are interested with, my number, I will give that out as well. It is 312-804-2036. Again, it's 312-804-2036. And we are also Women of Now Faith. That is my non-for-profit, Women of Now Faith. And that website is womenofnowfaith.com. Look us up.
Good. And we have all of that actually showing on the page now as during the live feed. So her information, her cards, her picture, her websites, all of that is available through this episode. So, again, thank you so much, Nikki, for doing this, and I truly appreciate you. And I will definitely be in touch.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Love you.
All right. Love you too. All right. So we got a good 1 minute before we go. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. My upcoming events, I'm in the Chicago Mass Choir. We're preparing for our concert, spring concert and live recording on May 4th at 7 p.m. I have 4 tickets left. So if you're interested, inbox me at Sherri Simmons on Facebook. Also, you can find me at Sherri Simmons on Instagram and as well on Underneath the Hat on Instagram and Facebook. I have my YouTube channel, Underneath the Hat web series. Go ahead and subscribe. The newest episode is Women on the Move with Miranda Chanel. My book, Underneath the Hat, is available on Amazon.com. If you go to my website, SherriSimmons.com, SHERRI, Simmons, SIMMONS.com, everything is available for you, including a link to the book. I want to thank all of you again for tuning in. Next week, the topic will be dating in the 21st century with Twyla Shantae and Stephen Penniman. I know these people personally. Trust me, you want to tune in. Again, this is Underneath the Hat, an affiliate of Vigilant Broadcasting and the Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. My name is Sherri Simmons, your host, and remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat.
Thank you for tuning in to Underneath the Hat radio show. We will see you here again next Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. Follow Sherri on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Underneath the Hat, and visit her website, SherriSimmons.com. Always remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat. See you next week.